The Lindt Cafe Siege, a nation held hostage. On the morning of December 15, 2014, a quiet Sydney street became the site of an unfolding national tragedy. The Lindt Cafe and Martinplace, known for its chocolate and calm atmosphere, was stormed by a lone gunman who took 18 hostages, holding them for 17 terrifying hours. This event was not just an isolated act of violence, it was a manifestation of a global ideology that had already gripped the world in fear and terror. Global and political impact. To understand why the siege struck such fear in Australia, we must look at the world in 2014. The Islamic State, or ISIS, was rising rapidly in the Middle East, seizing large areas of Iraq and Syria. Gruesome beheadings, online propaganda, and the threats against the West flooded the media. Western nations, including Australia, were becoming increasingly concerned about citizens being racialised online and returning home with violent intent. Australia raised its national terror alert level just months before the siege. Public fear was already high, with major media outlets running 24/7 stories on ISIS and terror threats. This constant media coverage contributed to anxiety, suspicion, especially towards Muslim communities, creating a tense national atmosphere. Who was involved and why? The attacker, Man Haron Morris, was an Iranian-born man with a criminal history and known extremist views. He was on bail at the time for serious offences, including being an accessory to murder and multiple sexual assault charges. He wasn't officially part of ISIS, but claimed allegiance to them during the siege by forcing hostages to display an Islamic flag and demanding to speak with the Prime Minister live on air. His motives were complex, a mix of ideology, personal instability, and a desire for attention. Some analysts believe he chose a public location like the Lindt Cafe, especially to maximise media coverage, knowing the whole world would be watching with shock and fear. In this way, the media may have unintentionally played a role in the attacker's plan by amplifying his message. Media and public fear. The media played a central role in broadcasting the siege. Live streams, rolling news coverage, and social media updates meant millions of Australians turning on the TV were watching in real time. This made the event feel even more immediate and terrifying. For terrorists like Morris, media attention can serve as a weapon. It spreads fear, gives notoriety, and creates the kind of spectacle they desire. In this way, the media becomes part of the story, not intentionally, but distinctively. After the siege, questions were raised about how to responsibly cover such events without fueling further fear or giving terrorists the platform they seek. Here's a quote from ABC Four Corners 2015, referring to Man Morris's acts. He wanted the world to watch, and the media delivered. Primary and secondary source analysis. Let's examine some key sources from the siege. Here's a testimony from one of the survivors, Louisa Hope. She described the fear, confusion, and bravery inside the cafe. Her perspective helps us understand the human impact of the attack. Her motive is not political, but personal and reflective, making a highly credible account of the emotional toll. Louisa Hope has also shared her story to a website called thecontinuumproject.com. This website helps Australian and New Zealanders share their past stories of life and events that took place. This website also provides help to those in need, especially during the events of this tragedy. Another statement would be from the New South Wales Police. The police maintain that they were working to avoid bloodshed but faced criticism for delays in storming the cafe. Here is an interview with David Hudson, the head of the New South Wales Police Counter-Terrorism Unit. He will be discussing the events that unfolded during the Lindt Cafe siege and what the police force could have improved on to prevent injuries or any other further events.
David Hudson heads up the New South Wales Police Counter-Terrorism Unit. Having started in the police force at 18, he spent the last 43 years learning how to improve policing. He admits mistakes were made during the siege.
When you look at 2014, the environment was changing significantly, very quickly. ISIS had declared a caliphate in Syria. ASIO had increased the threat level in Australia to probable. I think our inability to adapt to the situation and the evolving environment put us behind the eight ball. You know, that's a memory that this organisation will always have. That's a scar on our organisation, which will be there for perpetuity with the loss of innocent life.
These official accounts are useful to understand the tactical approach, but they must be viewed critically, as institutions often defend their actions under pressure. Another key resource would be from the New South Wales Coroner's Report in 2017. This secondary source is based on a detailed investigations and offers a broader view of what happened, highlighting both mistakes and procedures. It is highly credible and helps us understand the gaps in the mental health, law enforcement and intelligence systems. Each source adds a layer to our understanding of the topic. The testimonies humanise the experience, while official reports and investigations show us what went wrong and what needs to change. The Lindt Cafe Siege sparked intense public debate in Australia. It led to changes in counter-terrorism laws, hostage response training, and community outreach. It also showed the best of society in the worst of times. The hashtag #IRideWithYou movement went viral on social media, as Australians offered support to Muslims who feared backlash. But the siege also raised hard questions, such as how to prevent radicalisation. How do we balance media freedom with responsibility, and how can a single person cause such national trauma? Here's a quote from the Sydney Morning Herald in 2015. It was a turning point, not just in law enforcement, but in how we see each other. What this teaches us about terrorism. In conclusion, the Lindt Cafe Siege was a local tragedy with global significance. It showed that terrorism doesn't always come from large groups or organised plans. Sometimes it's one man with a gun and a grievance using fear as a weapon. By examining this event through personal stories, official reports and media coverage, we gain a deeper understanding of how terrorism affects us, not just physically, but emotionally and socially. And we learn that in times of fear, how we respond as a community matters just as how much as we fight the threat itself. Thank you for listening.